Since building this radiant floor heat circuit board in 2019, I have made a few changes to the original design. I had to replace one heating element last year in the 13K Rheem on-demand water heater. After every season, I flush the entire system, including all the loops, with vinegar and remove the heating elements. I soak them in CLR and scrub them with an SOS pad to remove any scale. This year, I removed the flow manifold in order to replace the sight valves and gaskets on the ends of the manifold. This is a single zone system, meaning I have one primary stainless steel pump and one secondary stainless steel pump. The 5 circuits make up 1,490 feet of half-inch tubing with one thermostat wired to the zone control box. Initially, I had a thermostat and actuator dedicated to each circuit, but that wasn't necessary, and the system works more efficiently without the actuators. The stainless steel pumps are a must-have if you are not going to use distilled water or glycol in the system. To fill the primary loop, I shut off the return and flow valves at the manifold. I then turn on the water supply line connected to the isolator service valve above the primary and open the ISB below to the drain valve. I open the super vent to allow air to be purged out as the water circulates, and then I slowly taper off the drain ISB. We're ready to fill our loops. And I've got the water supply hooked up here, and then it's going to drain out of here. Only fill one loop at a time. I've got this one open here. I've got all these filled up already. Just like that drain. Get all the air out. And then just taper that off. Build up some pressure. After removing the hoses, I turn on the thermostat to make sure everything is in working order and set the flow valves. The pressure is around 50 at startup and will go down as the system begins to circulate heated water and remove air molecules at the super vent. While the pressure is up, I check for leaks at all the joints and allow the water temperature to reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I set each flow valve to the required gallons per minute flow rate. The Rheem, now Emax, was purchased from Amazon. The rest of the parts I purchased online from Supply House and PEX Universe. The primary loop fittings are 1/2 to 3/4 inch, and the secondary loop fittings are 3/4 inch to 1 inch. The thermostat signals the zone control box, which is plugged into a GFIC 120, and passes the power onto the pumps through this junction box. The water flow turns on the water heater, and you should only be hearing a low hum from your pumps. As the heated water circulates through the system, the primary-secondary purge tee separates primary flow and secondary flow to create hydraulic separation before returning to the water heater. The heated water travels through the flow manifold to all the loops throughout the house, transferring the heat from the tubing to the floors. The temperature gauge on the flow side of the heater should read the same as the heater setting. The return gauge is the drop. There are also 2 temperature gauges on the manifold. The return target temperature drop is 10 to 15 degrees across the circuit. The longer it takes for the hot water to travel through the circuit, the colder it gets. It may not be heating the floor toward the end of the loop. Flowing too quickly doesn't allow the heat to transfer sufficiently. You want the temperature to be consistent throughout the run of the loop, so there is an even temperature being radiated throughout the space. I micromanage each circuit's temperature drop with an infrared thermometer and adjust the flow rate accordingly. Each circuit is labeled with the length of the run and the calculated GPM. Each circuit's GPM is calculated by dividing the length of the run or loop by 0.25 for the half-inch tubing. If the return temperature is too cold, I open the valve slightly. Too hot, I close the valve slightly. Less GPM for less heat on return, more GPM for more heat on return. I use a magnifying glass in order to see the print on the valves, but since my right hand is busy at the moment, I am breaking my neck in order to see through my bifocals. You're welcome. So if you have made it this far in the video, you are seriously considering a radiant floor heat system. Read every article you can find and watch every video available, no matter how boring it is. You won't regret it.